Hey, welcome to the ride. This is Ray on Sports, and I'm your host, Johnny Ray. Today, let's talk about women's college basketball. Man, these ladies were killing it. But the intensity of the game in the Elite Eight was off the chain. I only really wanted to catch one of the games, which was Iowa versus LSU, the battle between last year's champion, Caitlin Clark, or last year's not really champion. Really, Caitlin Clark took out LSU last year, so I wanted to see the matchup between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Iowa got the win, but it was a great game until about 8 minutes left in it in the third quarter when Caitlin showed why she was the best player in basketball. She had an outstanding performance and finished with 40 points. Yes, I said it, 40 points, 13 from 29 from the field, and 9 trays. The good girl took over the game when she needed to. Angel Reese, on the other hand, finished with 17 points and 20 rebounds. And at times in the game, they had her doubled and triple teamed by the entire Iowa squad, which kind of made it kind of hard for her to get off. LSU's outside shooting was bad, was horrible, and they couldn't throw a pea in the ocean. I'm not blaming the coaching staff, but I have to say that adjustment was not made, in my opinion, to the critical part of that game. So that's where Iowa went on to win that game. But with that being said, I did feel bad for Angel Reese. Angel Reese, in her press conference, I don't know if you know the story, if you do know the story, if you don't know the story. Last year, Angel Reese went against Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark did the hands in front of her face signal. What that is, if you're a wrestling fan, you know John Cena does it all the time, and it means you can't see me. If you don't know what that means, look it up. Just look up John Cena, look up wrestling, look up you can't see me, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But so Angel Reese did it, and when she did it, everybody got on her about it. They talked about how bad that was, how horrible that was, how she was a villain. She shouldn't have did it. Why would she do something like that? Why would she even say something like that to someone? And yeah, it just went out of hand. But this year, she came back. Angel came back, tried to do her best in the game with the best she could, but she fell short in the Elite Eight. Caitlin did it good. I can give it to her. She is a good shooter. She's one of the greatest shooters in women's basketball, and probably will go down in history as one of the greatest shooters in women's basketball. She put the women's basketball NCAAW women's basketball on the map. I think the numbers from the viewing of that game was about the highest it's been in history. I think it's like 1.7 million viewers watched that game, or 1.8 million viewers watched the game. I might have the numbers wrong. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked it up, but from what I've heard, I think that was one of the highest grossing games. It outgrossed, if you want to put in perspective, it outgrossed Game 7 of the NBA Finals last year. It outgrossed the Super Bowl, I believe, last year. It outgrossed Game 7 of the Major League Baseball World Series. It outgrossed that. But it was an awesome game. It put like I said, it put women's college basketball on the map. Those girls out there hustling, playing hard, putting it all on the line. But what I was talking about with Angel was, after all that, she got on the podium afterwards, and she talked about how bad it was, how she got death threats, how she got all these threats because of what she did, and they made her the villain. So earlier in the tournament, they played UCLA. And there was an article that came out by the LA Times saying that they were the dirty debutantes or something like that. But they were talking bad about them. They were saying things about how they were the villains and UCLA was the sweethearts of the tournament and LSU was the villains. Now LSU, if you don't know what LSU is Louisiana State University. So those girls down there can play. But because of how they play and how they act, they treat them like villains, which is not a good thing. And in my opinion, it's not a good thing. Why would you treat somebody like that? Why would you say something like that? I know in sports you got to have a good versus bad, hero versus villain kind of thing, but that wasn't even called for, and I don't appreciate it. But with that being said, going on from there, from Iowa, they won that game. They came back and they went against South Carolina Gamecocks, which is coached by Dawn Staley. If you don't know who Dawn Staley is, Dawn Staley put the WNBA, her with Dawn, I say Lisa Leslie, Teresa Witherspoon, and there were some other names that I can't really remember right now, but they put women's WNBA on the map. When they came out and when they played, and I think Dawn played for the Houston team that won the first WNBA championship. Don't quote me on that either, but yeah, they put WNBA on the map. And so Dawn went back to after she retired, she went to South Carolina and started coaching the game, that women's basketball program. And before the tournament, they went undefeated in the season. So when into the NCAA tournament, the group field of 64 teams, they went through all the teams and got undefeated. Came to the final championship game and took on, who else? Caitlin Clark and Iowa Hawkeyes. It's a great game. I watched the game. I watched the game before that South Carolina played, and what I saw was great coaching. What I mean by great coaching is I saw South Carolina come out in the first half, play a decent game, but then at halftime they made some adjustments and they came out and they blew the pants off. I believe it was UConn, but I'm not sure. But I believe that's who they played before. I gotta look at some stats on that. But they came in there, and the South Carolina Gamecocks came in there and put it on Caitlin. So Caitlin went. She scored like 13 points, 13 straight points for her team in the first half. And then Dawn and her coaching staff went in the back and said, "Hey, we got to change up what we're doing. We got to change up the way we play." So they changed up their defensive presence. They switched the guard on her, and the guard that they switched on her shut her down. So she ended up shooting 10 from 18 from the field, but she only had 5 from 13 from 3. Now remember, the game before that, she had 9 3 game, and they didn't make adjustments to what the way they were playing her. But Dawn went in there and made some adjustments, said, "Hey, this is the way we're going to guard her now. We're going to guard her and let everybody else try to beat us." That's a good concept, because in a lot of sports and a lot of different games, you might have a coach that'll say, "Let the star player get theirs, and we'll stop everybody else," or "Let's double team the star player and try to make everybody else beat us." So that's what they did. They got on Caitlin, they shut her down, and they wanted other players to kind of do it. And other players did not come up, so they came up short. So South Carolina, they put it on them. They got this 6'7" beast in the middle. Her name is Camila Cardosa. She ended up with 15 points and 17 rebounds. She was a beast. They had nobody to stop her. In the Final Four game, she was controlling the paint. She was just posting up, going down the court, posting up, demanding the ball, and just taking it to the. Nobody could stop her. 6'7", 6'7". Come on now. There was nothing they can do. They tried their best to stop her, and they couldn't do anything with her. So she ended up, like I said, with 15 points, 17 rebounds. And that was impressive to me. So the state of women's college basketball has changed immensely. And if you haven't watched the game, I encourage you to watch the game. I encourage you to go back and watch that game. Watch the highlights. Awesome game. Coach Staley deserved all the credit and all the credit in the world for what she did with that program. And the thing about it was, all of her seniors had left, so she was starting freshmen. So these girls had never been to the tournament. These girls didn't know what it means to be on the big stage. But they went out there, they believed in their coach, and they got it done. And Dawn had an awesome post press conference, and she gave glory and praise to God for what He did for her and how he blessed them to get to where they were. I was amazed by that. But the only thing I didn't like, and it's from I call it the 4-letter network, ESPN. They played when she first interviewed her, they played the entire interview. When they replayed it on SportsCenter later on that night, they kind of cut some stuff out. And people ask, why do they cut out when people talk about God and these things of that nature? And I have to explain to you that in media, there's certain things that it might be with ESPN, I'm not sure, but there are times when they're told and they're said by their I guess their writing staff, the marketing staff, whatever, we can't air this, we can't air that, you can't put that out there because we're going to a broader audience and everybody doesn't believe in this, everybody doesn't believe in that. So things that people say, you might have to cut it. You might have to delete it out because somebody who's not religious might not want to hear that and might take offense to that. So I know it's not good. On my point, I don't think it's good. I don't think that you should not let people have freedom of speech. If you put it out there, put it out there. But for somebody to acknowledge God in that manner on a national stage like that, yeah, I was amazed with that because I saw the speech and I was like, wow, that's cool. That it sent chills at me for her to acknowledge God. That God is ahead of her life, and without Him, she couldn't do nothing. I speak on that. God is ahead of my life. Without Him, I can't do nothing. But anyway, so that weekend. That was my weekend. I'm looking forward to the NBA playoffs. My team is the Lakers. I don't know how well they'll do in the playoffs right now, but I'm hoping they'll do better. I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on. Right now, I was looking at the standings right now, and in the NBA playoffs, if the playoffs started today, in the East, you got Boston in first with a comfortable lead over everybody else. They're 13 games ahead of the next seed, which is Milwaukee. Milwaukee's second, followed by New York, Cleveland, Orlando, and Indiana. That's the top six. And if you don't know basketball playoffs, the top six teams now are locked in for a playoff spot. Number 7 through 10 what they call a play-in tournament, and what that is, that kind of determines who the 7th and 8th teams will be. Now, if you're not too familiar on basketball, in the playoffs, it's usually be the top 8 teams that make it to the playoffs. So with a couple of years ago, this is about the third year of the play-in tournament, the NBA decided that some of these teams, that were right there on the cusp of it, the 9 and 10 teams that were right there, saying, if we only had a chance to play, we can show you that we can make it. So last year was the Lakers. The Lakers was in the play-in, and they ended up making up to the Western Conference Finals. They lost to Denver. They lost to Denver. Yeah, Denver, whatever. And Denver went on to win the championship. But that format has started now again. And now the Lakers are seeded 10. I think they're 10. Yeah, they're seeded 10. The reason why they're seeded 10 because they were up. But because of the teams ahead of them, Sacramento and Golden State, the Kings have won the series over them, and Golden State won the series over them. So that all three of them have the same record, but they're seating the Lakers as 10th because of they call it the tiebreaker for Sacramento and Golden State, who won. If they ended up in a tie today, that's how it would fall out. It would be Sacramento 8, Golden State 9, Lakers 10. So the only way for the Lakers to move up, they can't move up any closer to the 6th seed. The only thing they can do is move up maybe to the 7th, maybe, if they can win out. And I think they only have 2 games left to play. And if they can win those 2 games, they might have a chance to move up. But then Sacramento would have to lose and Golden State would have to lose. So I don't see that happening. But for me, playoff basketball is awesome. You get the best out of people. You get the best out of the star players in the league. You get the best out of LeBron. You get the best out of Steph Curry. You get the best out of Kevin Durant. You get the best out of Jalen Brunson. All these different players. Luka, the Dallas Mavericks, I'm looking forward to seeing them play because they have shown me that they can play. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving as a duo, best duo in the NBA right now, in my opinion. And we'll see what the kind of noise they can make in there. The Clippers, I don't know. I can't trust the Clippers. You put your money on the Clippers, and every year they let you down. You try your best to root for them. And like I said, I'm a Laker fan, so I probably won't root for them that much, but I'd like to see them playing. But for some reason, when it comes to the playoffs, they can never get over that hump. No matter how many roster moves they make. I think this year they brought in Russell Westbrook and James Harden to try to do something, but they're still the same Clippers. I don't know if it's a curse on them or what, but they're still the same Clippers. Comes to the playoffs, they fizzle out. I think one year they were up 3-1, fizzled out and lost. Next year they went up 1-0. Last year they went up 1-0. Kawhi Leonard gets hurt, and they end up losing the series to Phoenix. So I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm really trying to understand, but maybe it'll turn out good, maybe it won't. But we'll see. So that's my take for this. That's my take for today. Thank you guys for riding with me on this ride. I appreciate it and enjoy it. I will be back next week with more on the NBA Finals. The NBA playoffs, how that shakes out because the play-in tournament starts next week. So I'll give you my take on that. Right now, my take on what's going on right now, I would say I would take Denver in the West and the Boston Celtics in the East. My pick for the finals, for the champion NBA Finals, I want to say Denver, but I don't like Denver because they're in the West. And I can't say Boston because I'm a Laker fan, and we don't like Boston. We don't want Boston to ever win because if Boston wins, they'll have 17 banners and we'll have 16 banners. And I don't know if you don't know anything about that. That's been a rivalry for years and years and years since the Magic and Bird days. The Lakers and the Celtics going back and forth, and they were the dominant teams in the NBA until Michael came around. And then they fell off, and then when Michael left, the rivalry started back up. So now Boston is back on top again, and we'll see how it turns out. So that's my that's my time for today. Appreciate you guys listening. Thank you for riding with me. Thank you for listening to my podcast. This is Johnny Ray for Ray on Sports, signing off.